Hey, welcome back to Devos on Fridays. This is a unique post because I'm actually talking to pastors here, so I don't know how our pastors or church leaders, even you'll probably enjoy it too, but if there's any way you can get this to your pastor or any pastors you know, I think it'll be helpful for them, encouraging for them, and yeah, if there's any way you can do it. So I'm speaking, or by the time you listen to this, I'll have already spoken at a pastors and wives retreat. They wanted me to speak on mental emotional health and just the inner life of a pastor. So the second session, can't remember what, I think it's calling it health, a new / ancient means to church growth. So in that, I'm going to be talking about that, and here's my little outline for a part of that message, I guess. The first, I got a 6-point outline. The first one is, if you want your church to grow, throw away all your church growth marketed strategies. That's not even the goal. And this is a real game changer for young pastors, especially. The goal of your ministry cannot be to grow your church. It was never Jesus's goal. And that's just going to take a whole lot of pressure off you, because if you think your goal is to grow your church, you're going to be incredibly vulnerable to Satan's deception. So that's the first thing. Throw out all your church growth strategies. I mean, some of them are good. There's learned a lot of things in there, but man, I look back on all the church growth seminars I went to. So anyway, that's the first one. Second one is encourage your pastor and leaders to deal with their issues. I mean, think about it. And what I'm talking here is about their secrets, about their sins. Obviously, we're going to talk about that, but their fears, their people pleasing, the fear of the board, or the fear of the congregation, or the fear of the 10% that always complain that are going to leave. You know, one thing I learned is you're going to always lose 10% of your church. You just have to decide which 10% you're going to lose. But the fear of man is really, really strong, especially when you're a young pastor. And also, pastors got to deal with their failures. You can't live by faith without risking failure, and so you have to deal with those. And just on that, there are reasons people and pastors have secrets or have unhealthy behaviors or unhealthy attitudes. There's reasons. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying there's reasons. There's hurts. There's pains. There's things like that. There's reasons pastors fall prey to fear of man, and there's reasons why pastors and relinquish their calling and quit. Again, I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying there's reasons. If we just look at the behaviors, it'll never help. So why this is a devotional, so why I'm actually doing this, is I was reading this morning in Galatians, and this is what it says. Paul's talking. He says, but when he who had set me apart before I was born, and who called me by his grace, was pleased to reveal his son within me. The ESV says to, the Greek says within me, was pleased to reveal his son within me, in order that I might preach among the Gentiles. Reminds me of Mark chapter 3, verse 13, when Jesus called his 12 apostles. He called them first to be with him, and then to go out and cast out demons and to preach, but to be with him, which is absolutely critical. And so our pastors have to, and they all know this in their head. We all know this in our heads. But right now, what God's speaking to me about is learning to abide, which is kind of crazy because I'm 62 years old. I've been in pastoral ministry for over 35 years. So now, and I've had to learn this before, but God's leading me into a new season of abiding with him, which again is strange because the ministry I'm in, Freedom Session, is growing quite significantly, and I'm always tempted to put my energies into that. So anyway, that's the number two. Make sure your pastors and leaders have deal with their issues, because if they're not healthy, then there's no chance in the world their church is going to be healthy, or very little chance. Third, teach your people how to hear the voice of God in Scripture. I am amazed and not appalled, but just discouraged at how few people can hear God's voice consistently in Scripture. And this isn't a marketing thing, but man, we developed an Authentic Life Journal. We've got 2 free videos on how to use it, and you can go to freedomsession.com or just Google Freedom Session Authentic Life Journal. and you can see it, and it's a tool, and we've helped thousands, tens, probably hundreds of thousands of people learn how to hear God's voice on a daily basis. And it's simply the practice that I put in place in my own life, 5 out of 7 days a week, usually 7 out of 7 days a week. So anyway, that is so critical. If your people don't know how to hear God's voice in Scripture, a lot of times you just go by your emotions, or God saying this to me and things like that. And that's so important. So that's got to be number 3. If you're not doing that, I mean, I travel, and only 10% of men generally can tell me what God said to them through the Word in the last 24 hours, and generally only 30% of women. That's kind of terrible. So anyway, that's really important. 4 is teach your people how to resolve trauma, and that's the big thing that I'm going to be speaking out of this retreat. And obviously that's what Freedom Session's about, but you can also do that in sermons and things like that. 5 is teach your people how to share their faith without being weird. Now, first of all, your people have to actually have a God story, and there's a lot of people that don't share their faith because they don't really have a story of how God really met them in the core issues of their heart. And so they're not going to share their faith. So again, that's why it's important to have some type of a healing discipleship ministry in your church, so that you people actually have a story of meeting God in their shame, in their pain, in their fears, in their abuse, in their divorces, in their sexuality, in their failures, or whatever has happened in their life, or anxieties, whatever. So that's really important. That's number 5. And then 6 is teach your people how to pray. What I mean by that is make prayer the most normative thing in the world. That's going to take a little bit of work. And teach your men how to pray, because men aren't generally very good at praying out loud with other people. And we've got to break that. I mean, really, if we really believe that prayer moves mountains, that prayer is the answer, if we really believe that, and I know we do in our heads, but in our practicality, I'm not sure we do. We have to teach people how to pray. Most people know one form of prayer, petition, but there's 6 forms of prayer. And I'm not going to expand on that right now. But anyway, my point is that's got to be the, at least my opinion, that's the, not secret to church growth, but that's got to be at least the core strategy, the foundational strategy to church growth. And again, forget the growth part, just become healthy. Healthy things grow. And so that hopefully will lift a lot of pressure off you. Plus, God didn't call us to grow His church. He said He would do that. So, I mean, obviously some of the basics, make sure you have people teaching that have the gift of teaching, things like that, just basics. There's organization. There's all kinds of things that are important other than this. But I think that if we miss the foundation, we miss the whole game. So hopefully that's encouragement. And if you're not a pastor and leader, it's still the same principles, because you're listening to this, you're probably interested in expanding the kingdom. So make sure you've dealt with all your issues. Make sure you know how to hear the voice of God in Scripture. Make sure you know how to resolve trauma, pains, failures in a healthy way and a God-approved way. Make sure you know how to share your faith without being weird. And without being weird is important. And make sure you know the other, the 6 ways of prayer. In fact, I think I'm going to post those on a Devo coming up. So God bless. Have a great weekend.